I titled today's mind map, Going Beyond Self-Imposed Limitations. Today we're going to take more of an unconventional approach towards living the life that we really want to live. We're going to be talking about how essentially going beyond certain ideas that we have about failure or limitation allows us to live how we really want to live in this world which has infinite potentiality and possibility to be revealed, which is sourced from within, tying back to Sunday's video, seeing imagination and the inner side of things, or the inner world as the cause. Today's conversation is actually inspired by this poem that I came across today, so I want to read it first. It's by Edgar A. Guest. How do you tackle your work each day? Do you grapple the task that comes along your way with a confident, easy mind? Do you start to toil with a sense of dread, or feel that you're going to do it? You can do as much as you think you can, but you'll never accomplish more. If you're afraid of yourself, young man, there's little for you in store. For failure comes from the inside first. It's there, if we only knew it. And you can win, though you face the worst, if you feel that you're going to do it. Think about a time in your life where perhaps you were reflecting upon experiences, or you had a conversation with a friend, or maybe you read a book, or you watched a video on YouTube, and someone shared with you a different perspective, one of their perspectives, a different way of looking at whatever challenge you were going through. And that perspective resonated with you. Something clicked inside of you. And what you believed to be true about whatever it was, about certain limitations about yourself or the journey to realizing your vision, so forth, all of a sudden vanished. Just like that, it was gone. You felt a certain way. You felt content, confident. Just through one sentence, perhaps, or a certain story or perspective. Something changed within you, and you received a hunch, an inspiration, an idea, a different way of looking at things. Now, when you got this idea, it's important to tie it into what we're going to talk about next, because I not only want to encourage those ideas in you, but I also would like us to relate to where these ideas come from. Now, there's a interesting book. It's called Your Hidden Power by Thomas Troward. I want to read a quote from it and tie it all in. He says, to realize fully how much of our present daily life consists in symbols is to find the answer to the old question. What is truth? And in the degree in which we begin to recognize this, we begin to approach truth. The realization of truth consists in the ability to translate symbols, whether natural or conventional, into their equivalents. And the root of all the errors of mankind consists in the inability to do this, and in maintaining that the symbol has nothing behind it. The great duty incumbent to all who have attained to this knowledge is to impress upon their fellow men that there is an inner side to things, and that until this inner side is known, the things themselves are not known. So you've heard me say this many times. Ideas, hunches, inspiration found within. And what we want to do is encourage these ideas, see them all the way to completion. commit to them. Because these ideas hold the seeds of change. We can call this quantum leap or stepping into a different world, reality. I trust we've all had experiences such as the ones I mentioned earlier, in which we had an idea and we actually committed to that idea and we were able to take that step and everything changed. Our relationships changed, our business changed, how we saw ourselves changed. There was a two-part to this experience. Number one is you actually did something that you truly wanted to do. And you experienced in life something you truly wanted to experience. And number two, there were clues of this, what he's referring to, the inner side of things. So this world is symbolic to us. And what we experience each day has individualized symbolic meaning. Now, this ties in very nicely to one of my favorite, it's a very simple model, learning model. It's called the Kolb's 4 Stages of Learning, which, if you go through personal development or any of this kind of information here, you'll find that this model will serve you very well to stimulate more of those ideas. Find the symbolic meaning of what is experienced each day. And I'm talking about environment, circumstances, information, people, everything. All of that has individualized meaning to you in relation to your goal and your vision. You always hear me say this. Everything is in harmony and in contribution to your vision. And as we spoke about in Sunday's video, at any given moment, we are saying, I am to something. Now, we could either say, I am to attributes on the journey in relation to our vision, and thus continue to maintain a certain degree of internal peace. And if we relate over this poem, transcend past certain interpretations of being afraid of ourselves or doubt-based thinking that says, you can't do it, or whatever. Or as he says, toil with sense of dread. And all of those thought processes provide an opportunity, because in each moment we can actually choose to identify with those thought processes and then go down the thread of experience in relation to those thought processes. Or we could actually identify with thought processes that are true to who we really are. Now, each one of us goes through these stages here on this journey. Number one is concrete experience. Student encounters an experience, whatever it may be. They take a step in the right direction. They try anything, you do anything. You have experiences in life. And we reflect upon these experiences, and upon reflection of these experiences, we may relate over to past experiences. Now, here are potential 3 past experiences that we want to observe if we're identifying with, and recognize that you really have a preference if you want to identify with it. And I would suggest finding meaning that would be more true to what is in harmony with your vision. Number 1, I'll be ashamed for being my real self. Number 2, I don't have enough experience. Number 3, I am not smart enough. See, these are thought processes. If a person has been identifying with these thought processes for whatever the reason may be, which usually they have learned these kinds of things in childhood or at some point in their journey, they might start to think very limited and not actually see the true symbolism that is in front of them, that is actually bringing them to their vision. Now, let's relate this over to a conversation we had about this book called Acres of Diamonds by Russell Conwell. And the idea behind it is at any moment, right now, each one of us are sitting on our own acres of diamonds. Now, the acres of diamonds is within. And when we recognize that we have within ourselves, you just say it unto ourselves, there's infinite potentiality, possibility, and opportunity with everything that I have each day to some way, somehow lead me to my vision. When we say that to ourselves, we begin to externalize this idea of acres of diamonds and express it onto reality and see it from that perspective. Thus, things become symbolic. A person may say, well, this time when I had a conversation about what I really felt, the person accepted me a little bit more so. A person started to actually listen to me more than before. This must actually mean that there's a change occurring. That's a different way of looking at if a person seems to have a meaning of, I will be ashamed for being my real self, which, if we actually look at the five sensory experience, we're the ones assigning meaning from within. We can actually select the true symbolic meaning. Another one is, I don't have enough experience. So when we recognize that this meaning is actually sourced from within, and we recognize that everything actually is sourced from within, imagination, thinking being the cause of what appears here, perhaps we might ask ourselves the question, can we find the answers within? Well, if the acres of diamonds is within, and all of this is an expression of the acres of diamonds, then is it possible to find ideas, hunches, and inspirations within? What a person will notice is that if they encourage that kind of train of thought, through the next stage here, abstract conceptualization, new ideas will emerge. So there holds the key between person A, who believes that some way, somehow, they will come up with the idea to solve any challenge that shows up. They will figure it out. Some way, somehow, they will come up with the idea. Or person B that might say, well, I don't have enough experience. I'm not smart enough. If a person encourages that kind of way of thinking, they might find it more challenging to actually allow, the key word is allow, the ideas to emerge from within themselves. Because if we go back here, it says, the realization of truth consists in the ability to translate symbols, whether natural or conventional, into their equivalents. And the root of all errors of mankind consists in the inability to do this, and in maintaining that the symbols have nothing behind it. So what we're talking about here is looking at reality, this five sensory experience, as symbolically representing the goals, visions, aspirations, desires, whatever it is. Actually looking at it and seeing it for what it really is, that it actually is in contribution to your vision, because we have been discussing this all throughout our videos, that when a person commits to a vision, known and unknown ways, through them, reality changes to reflect the vision. And we also have an opportunity to release from this kind of thinking here to experience more of a flow of ideas, inspiration, intuition within. Allowing this abstract conceptualization, because we all have this, the power within, to allow these ideas to emerge. Okay, so let's say we start receiving some of these ideas, and as I had discussed in Thursday's video last week, in which we talked about flow versus force. If you haven't seen that, I recommend watching it. I'll put a link in the description. We realized that, and I've had many conversations, and in every single conversation, I discovered that the person who had a concrete experience in relation to their goal, just through a reflective observation with them, a conversation really, understanding conversation. They can do this within themselves as well. You can do it with another person, or you could do this within yourself. They get into abstract conceptualization, and they're able to translate their experiences symbolically and find new ideas or hunches, inspiration within themselves. They're able to do it, or we can do it with conversation. And they always know what to do next. And if they have doubts or indecision about what shows up after that, all I say is commit to that thing, that next idea. And let me ask you the question. Is that the thing you really know you have to do? And they say yes. And they go about doing it. Now, what if a person has challenge doing it? Well, perhaps they start having these thoughts show up, which now we're looking at them as opportunities. Opportunities to see what thoughts are really based on our true identity, which is limitless. What thoughts? And if we look at it with such vivid accuracy now, as we've been having this conversation, let's look at these examples of thought processes, which could be very common for a person who has not realized the ability to look beyond the thinking. I'll be ashamed for being my real self. I don't have enough experience. I'm not smart enough. When we recognize that who we really are is limitless, why would we identify with this kind of thinking process? Well, we know this because we've been discussing it. One of the ways that we change, how we change this self-image, is repetition of the same information or repetition of the same information from different perspectives. So you hear these conversations, you have these conversations with yourself, with others, and you're able to look at these ideas and say, well, you know what? I'm no longer going to identify with this way of thinking. And as you no longer identify with this way of thinking, it's easier to allow those ideas to emerge and move into number 4, active experimentation. Experimentation is sparked by newly created or modified concepts. Now let's go a little deeper into this because this goes beyond active experimentation. This is actually a form of being who we really are, expression. Artists, poets, innovators, entrepreneurs, everybody innovates. We all do it. And what we want is change in relation to our goals and vision so we could live how we really want to live. Now, the quantum leap is really between 3 and 4 here, abstract conceptualization and active experimentation. This is where we have a big opportunity. Let's zoom in here. By taking this step, whatever that idea is, we change. This is a full integration, physical, mental, emotional, and spiritual. When a person takes that step, they become. And through this becoming, living, they change, and also they find that it's easier to go from abstract conceptualization, having ideas, and actually completing those ideas. The more rapidly that they do that, I mean, you get an idea and just do that idea. I mean, I'm not going to tell you what to do, but these are the ideas that I find within myself and in conversation with others that I within myself, through my own symbolic interpretation based on reflecting upon the 5 sensory experience, recognize that certain ideas from the reflective observation, new ideas emerge, and I do them. We call this innovation. And any kind of challenge that a person has in regards to doing that is identification with certain thought processes which are overly identifying with the 5 sensory experience and having less faith and trust in the world of imagination, the inner world, the inner side of things, the source of everything. And, in personal development, we call this getting uncomfortable, stepping outside of your comfort zone, being open to failure, doing what you really love to do, regardless of past interpretations. Or as Steve Jobs said in his commencement speech, following your heart and intuition, they somehow already know what you want to become. So if a person has challenges taking this step here, then they have certain interpretations that they're continuing to encourage in themselves. And I would suggest doing the subconscious mind work. There's a video that I put together, a almost 2-hour discussion on the power of your subconscious mind. We've been discussing different ways of changing this internal programming within. And really, it's 3 things that we're going to do. We change the way we relate to it. Maybe we have different perspectives, such as if you say, well, I'll be ashamed for being my real self. Others will not accept you. I'll say, where did you get this reference experience from? And then you'll share with me stories because this other person said that, or this other experience in which there's only one interpreter, and that's interpretation from within. We are the interpreter in which we're assigning this meaning. And I say, well, do you recognize, maybe you knew now, that you were the one assigning the meaning? And that's okay. You assigned it back then in relation to that experience, that you will experience shame. And so thus, every time you want to take a step from abstract conceptualization to active experimentation, you have an emotional reaction rather than maintaining the feeling of the wish fulfilled, as we talk about in relation to our Neville Goddard conversation. And that's okay, totally fine, nothing wrong with that. This is grounds for actually recognizing that you are transcendent to the programming. So how would you really look at it? Perhaps you would encourage an affirmation or inner conversation that would go something like, more so every day, people accept me for who I am. I'm able to see it a little bit more so in each conversation. As I look at myself in the mirror each day, I accept that I am infinite. And I'm able to see how it is so because I realize that there is always an inner side to thing. Upon reflection, I understand more so what Thomas Troward said, that to realize fully how much of our present-day life consists in symbols is to find the answer to the old question, what is truth? And to the degree in which we begin to recognize this, we begin to approach truth. And I recognize that I am assigning this meaning from within. So, as I look at myself, as I go through my experiences, I see it as in harmony and in contribution to my vision, my goals. And I'm able to see the symbolic meaning of all these experiences in the 5 sensory experience and translate it over to the true and accurate meaning found within. This brings me inner peace, or something like that. And that's the kind of inner conversation, inner dialogue, that will, as soon as a person gets an idea emerges, they take that action, they go in that direction automatically, or with less resistance. You know, one of my favorite sayings from Joseph Campbell, the cave we fear to enter holds the treasure we seek. And what is the treasure? Well, some attributes of that treasure, acres of diamonds within, is the realization of the acres of diamonds, transcending past these ideas of I'm not smart enough and I don't have the experience. Now, when I look back at my own journey and working with others, I find that as we continue to work with what we're discussing here, you'll notice that you go through experiences in life. You don't shame yourself or put labels on it in a way that disempowers and limits you. You simply reflect upon it, whatever it is. You get rejected in sales, you start the business, you put it out in the marketplace, and you didn't get as much buyers as you would like. Reflective observation. You're able to look at it for how it really is. Acceptance for how it really is. And then you're able to see the symbolic meaning behind it, the real meaning behind it, the truth behind it. And through that acceptance and reflection, new ideas emerge. And then what? There's the opportunity, active experimentation. You do it again, it becomes automatic, effortless, flow, or deep stages of flow, autotelic. Watch the Flow series. And last week we added another video to that series, so I'm going to recommend the series again. And this continues. You taking quantum leap after quantum leap without feeling to the degree of before. The uncomfortable emotional reaction because you have now transcended past it. You've essentially aligned these attributes, physical, mental, emotional, spiritual, within, more so. And as we say, the unseen forces come to your aid because, look, we're realizing this. Certainly we can look and see how other people do things and get some ideas. That could be part of the abstract conceptualization. Masterminds, getting together with a few people and sharing ideas, different ways of looking at your challenges. That could be very helpful. And also, I would suggest finding it within yourself. So let's actually go back and read this poem again. And upon having this conversation, let's see if it takes on another light. He said, "How do you tackle your work each day? Do you grapple the task that comes your way with a confident, easy mind? Do you start to toil with the sense of dread or feel that you're going to do it? You can do as much as you think you can, but you'll never accomplish more if you're afraid of yourself, young man. There's little for you in store, for failure comes from the inside first. It's there if we only knew it. And you can win though you face the worst if you feel that you are going to do it." So, there it is in a nutshell. How do you tackle your work each day? The integration of the abstract conceptual ideas into active experimentation. See, all the stuff in between here, the sense of dread, whether you can do it or not, overthinking in regards to failure-based interpretations or interpretations of failure. As a person transcends past that, recognizing that's all interpretation of five sensory experience, they actually automatically feel that they're going to do it. Another thing we mentioned is repetition of the same information. So you can definitely watch this video again and again and again. I would also suggest active experimentation, repetition of the same information from different perspectives. And one perspective is the applying the information, doing the idea, going in that direction, because what you'll find is it becomes a habit. That way, you don't see the physical actions as a weakness, emotional aspects as a weakness, or mental aspects as a weakness, and spiritual aspects as a weakness, but rather see them how they really are, as one. And any kind of separation or incongruences between those attributes is ways of thinking. So I trust you found this video to be helpful. We're going to further discuss this as we progress over the weeks. So let's go ahead and further encourage the active experimentation, living how you really want to live, via the abstract conceptualization that comes from the reflective observation from the concrete experience that we all have. You can say, I realize that every day each experience has profound and symbolic meaning that is in harmony and in contribution to my vision. I am able to reflect and find the inner side of things, the internal meaning, upon reflective observation of these experiences. Through the process, I accept and bring forth a higher degree of inner peace, revealing ideas that emerge in which I'm inspired to experiment with. Upon experimentation, I find it easier to do this every day. As I continue to live this way, creating reality from the perspective of my true infinite and loving self. If you would like a copy of this mind map, the link is in the description. Thank you very much for watching. I'll talk to you soon. Take care.